Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, the first of our 6-part Best of Breed Power of a Cloud PMS Ecosystem series. The focus of today's webinar is capturing and aligning your data to better optimize your business, brought to you by Stay in Touch and Juyo Analytics. I'm your host, Frigola, and I'm joined by my panel of hospitality tech leaders. First up is Director of Product Integrations at Stay in Touch, Madi Tadmore. With more than 20 years of hospitality industry experience, Madi is a seasoned product expert. Madi's career includes sales, product and project management, product support, and development for multiple hospitality products. Before joining the tech hospitality industry, Madi also worked in hotels, allowing him to better understand the industry and business, helping customers in their project needs. Before joining Stay in Touch, Madi was responsible for development of multiple hospitality software products with a focus on CRM, loyalty, business intelligence, central reservation systems, channel distribution, and revenue management systems. Joining us from Juyo Analytics is founder and CEO, Vasilis Saropoulos. The last 19 years, Vasilis has held multiple positions in revenue management, predominantly with IHG Hotels. Vasilis founded a consulting company focusing on demand management. He also joined Pandox, one of the leading hotel property owning companies. Vasilis developed the overall business intelligence strategy and implemented plans for deploying BI across hotel and other key areas. In 2014, the evolving complexity of the distribution landscape, the silo technology in hotel organizations drove him to found Juyo Analytics in order to help the industry make sense of their data constellations and take profitable decisions. With that said, we are going to jump into the webinar agenda. Today, we're going to be covering the value of a cloud PMS at the center of your tech stack, capturing and sharing the right analytics between your PMS and your RMS, understanding your data better so that you can make profit impacting decisions, and making your data easy to digest with a visually appealing dashboard. Before we get into it, I do want our audience to participate in 2 back-to-back poll questions. I'm going to launch the first one here. How would you assess the integration between your PMS and your RMS? Our systems are integrated and allow our property to run smoothly. Our systems are integrated but not in sync with data. Our systems are not fully integrated, and our systems are not integrated at all. I'll give you guys about 20 seconds, and then I'll launch the results. At 10 more seconds here. All right, closing the poll now and sharing the results. How would you assess the integration between your PMS and your RMS? It looks like the majority of you, 67%, indicate that your systems are not integrated at all. And we've certainly got 2 experts here who are going to help you better align those 2 systems. All right, I'm going to launch the next poll question. In your hotel, who is the biggest influencer when deciding what new systems your property will use? I'll give you guys another 20 seconds here, and then I'll launch the results. Another 10 seconds. All right, I am closing the poll now, sharing the results. It looks like most of your decision makers or influencers are hotel owners or operators and revenue managers. Not a surprise there. All right, we are going to move forward to our first presenter, Madi Tadmore, who is going to speak firsthand on the value of a cloud PMS at the center of your tech stack.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Obviously, this is a very, very important subject that we're going to talk about today when it comes to revenue management with PMS when they are in the cloud. So let's talk about some of the advantages and differences of what does it mean that your property management system is in the cloud and integrates as a hub with other systems, mainly revenue management. PMS, when it's in the cloud, and I think that's a topic that's probably being discussed a lot in the industry lately, allows you for cost reduction because, to begin with, you don't have to worry about specific hardware in the hotel itself or hosting that hardware or maintaining that hardware, so your IT costs are being cut by default. I think that one of the main interesting topics is about, is your PMS the core hub system? And many times I hear arguments in the industry about which system is actually the most important one. Is it my operational system, which is the property management system? Is it my revenue management system that will determine how I price my rates for the night, or what do I close and open, or how do I allocate pricing? Is it my CRS system that's actually feeding my reservations from different channels or distribution systems, and so on and so forth? With no doubt, I think all of them are super important, but obviously you will not be able to operate your hotel if you don't have the property management system in the core. Now again, when we talk about a cloud PMS, you have all the operational features that you need, but you don't need to actually maintain hardware or worry about where this property management system is. That's all being taken care of by your cloud vendor, which in that case is the PMS cloud company. So when we talk about a cloud PMS, there's another advantage that is very evident. Because it is in the cloud, mostly modern companies would use technologies such as APIs, web services, instead of just using interface PCs or an actual on-premise box that will connect you to other systems. So that's another point where you're gaining a benefit from using a PMS in the cloud. The integrations are simple. Again, using web services, APIs, we handshake instead of trying to send messages with multiple points of failures, trying to figure out where my message went. It's a lot easier. You basically send a request and you get a response. And most systems are doing that pretty easily and pretty fast when you're talking about cloud systems. Going back to the extensive maintenance and cost reduction, you don't need to invest in maintenance. You don't need to hire IT people to look over your servers, and if the server is up or down, if you have redundancy, if you have a backup, all of that should be taken care of by your cloud provider. Consolidation of your guest stay information and preferred data. Again, when your PMS is in the cloud and it's connected as a hub with many other vendors through integrations in the cloud, your property management system as well as the vendors are actually consolidating data, cleaning up the data, and using the data for you in a way that's efficient and allowing you to do your business a lot more faster, a lot more efficiently, and produce reporting and analytics and decisions for revenue management systems a lot more efficiently, just because they are connected to one another in a normal or in a modern and more familiarized way. Again, back to that same point, sharing the data seamlessly is easy for cloud systems, where it's not so much easy for someone who is self-hosted or on-premise or partial hosted, or some systems that call themselves in the cloud but they still desire or require some sort of maintenance in some sort of a hosting farm somewhere in the world physically, right? So when we're talking about a cloud PMS, we're trying to talk about what is the best of breed. What is actually giving you the best quality from a property management system that you can use. You can have your operational features that allow you to run your hotel day to day, but still have the best of breed, the best solution that requires low cost, ease of training or no training. Basically be able to have a system that's easy to deploy, easy to work with, and requires minimal effort from you as an hotelier, right? So new PMS companies focus on being the best of breed for in-house operation. But it's also open as an open structure. What I mean by that is that when we think about integrations as part of our innovation, as part of our who we are as a company's culture, we try to think about, we are not trying to be the company that will give you everything. We don't want to have our PMS, the cloud PMS, serve as your revenue management system and your CRS system and your channel distribution system. We are trying to be the one that sits in the middle as the hub for what you need from a hotel operation perspective, while still giving you the advantage of being able to connect to all the other vendors of your choice in an easy and modern fashion that will allow your operations to be smooth and easy and fast. So we're using minimal amount of code, and more to that, even generic code. All of our integrations are built in a way that are going to be generic. So when we get multiple requests from different vendors, depending on client requirements, we don't always, get ourselves in a corner of we have one specific spec that's the only thing that you can use, which we many times hear in the industry. We're trying to be open-minded. We're trying to be minimal in the amount of code that we put or customization that we put into the code, and invest more in the logic, in the actual efforts that will allow us to be flexible for the client. So at the end of the day, when a client is interested in an integration, we have the backbone and we have the base to integrate easily without having the client to pay for that. Again, hotels can select the perfect combination of what software they want to use to match their specific needs. For one hotel, one revenue management and PMS may be a great fit, and for another, it could be that same revenue management with a combination of another CRS and that PMS system. So again, the flexibility here is driven out of us trying to be generic and using modern APIs and web services. Because all those pieces specifically are built in and easy to integrate through APIs and web services, as I just mentioned, we're trying to build a software stack that will basically allow hotels to do whatever they want. If you wish, it's almost like a plug and play model. You basically buy your PMS core software as a cloud offering, and then you can choose what services do you really want to connect to it. And that choice should be an easy choice for you based on your hotel operations and business drive, and not necessarily because of technology. This is what a new age PMS best of breed offers you, to be able to make those choices a lot more easier. So moving on to what does it mean from a perspective of now capturing and sharing the right analytics or the data for your PMS and revenue management system, right? So we talked about cloud PMS and how important it is and how easy it is to have a cloud PMS as opposed to on-premise. And we talked about the integration itself and how we make it a little bit easier from a plug and play and using web services and modern technologies to integrate with systems. Now let's talk about revenue management in specific, right? So obviously there are no, or actually looking at our poll, there are some hotels that still need to have some decisions made about revenue management. And I've been in the industry long enough to understand that almost everybody is doing some sort of revenue management. Some of us are doing it manually. Some of us are counting on our gut feeling because we've been revenue managers for a long time, and we know our industry, we know our trends, and we can compare our comp set manually without even needing any system. But at the end of the day, the need for revenue management system or some sort of a system that will help you analyze and get to better price optimization and allocation of your inventory is a must, right? So when we talk about your PMS, your cloud PMS communicating to revenue management system, there's a couple of points that we can look at, right? So revenue optimization is about intelligence. It's about analyzing intelligently your data. The emphasis here is, of course, about the intelligence. Your rate management, the recognition of trends in your business, the qualification of specific markets, the ability to forecast, compensate based on what is your forecast saying together with what is your history saying. So we all know that in revenue management, we look at the history, we look at the forecast, and we try to combine both. But again, being able to have the PMS system provide that data in a meaningful way, in a quality way to a revenue management system is going to make your life a lot easier. You can actually cut off a lot of what your manual work is around today. Another point which is very interesting to understand when you talk about PMS connecting to a revenue management system is your PMS will have to share up-to-date rates and availability information to the revenue management system, right? So without understanding what is going on inside your PMS operations, a revenue management system may have a difficult time providing quality decisions or recommendations, right? So when we talk about a PMS and a cloud RMS, both of them in the cloud, both of them talk to each other fast and ad hoc, by the way. They don't have to be batched like in previous days or in old times. You now quickly share what is going on with the trend in your hotel. Imagine that your hotel is close to be 100% occupied tonight. Maybe you're at a 98 percentile or 99 percentile. Rates are closing, opening, reservations, demand go up and down in a matter of seconds. When you talk about two cloud systems, PMS to an RMS, and they communicate to each other ad hoc as it happen, as events happen online, then obviously your efficiency and your revenue management system will be a lot more efficient in providing those decisions and pricing decisions to you. How quickly can you turn over your rooms? From a housekeeping perspective, from out of order, out of service, to be able to make sure that you're optimizing your profits and your revenue. How fast can your revenue manager actually see the information inside the PMS? Is mobility there? If your revenue management manager is running into a meeting and he's holding a mobile device in his hands, can he see this information? In a cloud PMS software that's connected to a revenue management system, yes, he can. And then he can also take decisions ad hoc. He can communicate to his team a lot more efficiently and make decisions as they happen, again, to optimize your revenue and profit. And finally, again, can you react instantly to things that are happening, things that are changing, close, open of rates and revenue and rooms, different trends that are happening throughout your business day or week or even a month? All of those are being impacted by the two systems being connected and connected fast in an efficient way. The last thing I want to talk about before I hand this over to Vasilis to talk about the revenue management side of things is, of course, as a hotelier, you need to re-examine your PMS and revenue management connection. Again, we talked about a lot about the benefits of having a PMS system in the cloud. We talked about the benefits of being a modern PMS system that actually uses modern technology. And we talked about the advantages of having a PMS, modern PMS connected to a modern revenue management system, right? So I think now is the time to take a look at your systems. When is the right timing to take a look and basically examine, am I doing everything that I can to make the best out of what I have from a system, from a technology perspective? Today's revenue management systems and PMS systems are working harder for you. They are better than their predecessors just because, again, if you think about on-premise PMS systems connecting to revenue management systems, and I definitely remember those days in the industry, they used to be based off of a file exchange or XMLs exchange that sometimes make it and sometimes they don't. And also you have to sometimes wait for a batching of the decisions from the revenue management back into your PMS system. So you're losing time, you're losing efficiency, and still someone needs to always look over that. Someone needs to look at that and say, hey, does that decision file that just made it to my folder make sense? If yes, I'm going to drag it from the folder and put it into my PMS system, yes or no. All of that is gone. All of that is being replaced by modern systems talking to each other. And again, because of the focus that our company has on the PMS side and the revenue management systems have on their side, we each focus on what the hotelier really need. And when we connect the two systems together, you get the best of it. I did mention connected, integrated, intelligent, and mobile. Again, those are key words for the industry today. If you're a hotelier, it is super important for you to be connected and online all the time. It is really important to always be integrated between your PMS and other systems that are ancillary services, are helping you run your operations. And of course, you want to have your systems intelligent and mobile, so you can take your decisions anywhere. You can be flying somewhere and take a look at your revenue management performance, at your hotel performance, your RevPAR and ADR for the day, and so on and so forth. The last thing I want to mention is, don't be afraid of change. Many times, and again, I've been in the industry for so many years, many times you hear people that are really, really afraid from getting into a decision. Do I need a revenue management system? Do I need to switch over my property management system to a cloud one? How is it going to impact my employees and my operation and everything that we do here day to day? Am I ready for that? So the answer is yes, you are. If you're not doing that already today, you're leaving money on the table. And it's very simple. Change can be scary, but at the same time, if the change is actually allowing you to be more profitable, if it is cost reduction, if it is allowing you to be more efficient, if it is actually making your staff lives a lot easier, then you definitely have to at least examine the change and give it a chance. Because everything that we're going to mention here today in the webinar, modern systems connected to each other are a lot more efficient. They allow your staff to mostly look at a mirror and look at the information instead of trying to chase the change and chase the trend. they're allowing you to be more focused on your guest and your operations instead of focusing on the systems. So it is a good time to take a chance and take a look at, do I need to change something, and do I need to connect my systems together? With that being said, I'm gonna hand it over back to you, Free.
All right, thank you so much for that, Marty, and I think you ended with a very powerful word of advice to the audience, and I hope you guys are listening. I'm sure you are. That's why you joined. So, Marty, before we turn it over to Vasilis, I did want to ask. We talked so much about the data flow between both systems and how that sync is consistent. You're not doing batch, switchovers. It's instantaneous. All the information is being flowed back and forth. But which system do you think should always be the system of record and control everything?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. So again, as I mentioned a couple of times through the webinar, I've been in the industry for many, many years. I think this question always comes up, and it comes up every year. And with trends that we see in the industry, like business intelligence and analytics and revenue management and channel distribution systems, the question always comes, what is more important? Is having my PMS at the core and having PMS control everything and propagate data out to other systems? Or is it more important to have CRS drive my rates and revenue management drive my pricing and channel distribution driving my reservations? My personal opinion about that question is very, very simple. When we talk about cloud systems and modern hospitality systems as we talk about them today, there is no one system that should be in the core and should be the driving factor for you. As we mentioned, a combination of multiple systems, and depending on who you are and what hotel operations you're running, you may be a small hotel or a big hotel or part of a chain. Depending on who you are and how you want to drive your business, you probably do need a combination of a couple of different softwares. And I would say running your specific operations in the hotel, like running your check-ins and check-outs and housekeeping operations, definitely you do need your PMS system. But driving your pricing, you can count on a revenue management system. Driving your source of reservations and bookings can be used by a channel distribution system and a CRS system. It doesn't necessarily have to be your PMS or voice operation. So the answer to that is simple. The answer is basically a combination of all systems. It doesn't have to be one at the core that's driving everything for others.
I guess that brings us back to our point, best of breed, right?
Mm-hmm,
you let these systems do what they do best with the PMS at the core. All right, with that said, we're moving on to Vasilis, who's going to take you guys through understanding your data better so that you can make profit impacting decisions. Vasilis?
Yeah, thank you very much. Very happy to be here. And I just want to say that I fully agree with what Moti was saying about change. We used to see these changes of PMS or systems as a major undertaking in the past, and that is so much easier today. So today, indeed, you can integrate faster and you can start unlocking value as from the first day that you install these systems. So absolutely not being afraid to jump and to take the leap forward is great. So what I'm going to talk about is about data. So that's what we live for in our company. And I want to talk about what all the things that we are doing with the data that we get from Stay in Touch. And as we know today, data is the new oil, and it's through data that we can take profitable decisions. So we believe that by leveraging a good data set is the way to be successful in the digital environment. So I want to talk about three things that we're actually doing with the data that we get from Stay in Touch and how we think about it generally. So when we think about data at the very low level, we are starting with, let's say, reservations raw data that we would get from Stay in Touch. And there's not so much context at this level. So that is raw reservations. You cannot get a lot of insights out of that. But it's the transformation of that data that is going to actually give value. So the next level, what we can construct obviously out of the reservations raw data would be your booking pace. Nothing really fancy here. We all use booking pace every day in our hotels to take decisions. But then again, what we want to do is we want to go deeper than that. And we want to continue adding that context so we can take profitable decisions. So in the context of pace, we were going to add, for example, looking at booking pace as a function of our lead time. So adding an extra dimension, because if your lead time is changing, that will affect your booking pace. So you want to add that dimensionality there to take let's say, better decisions. And then what you want to do eventually is to look at that evolution. How is this trending over time? And what are the underlying causes that may, let's say, impact that can be a drop or being ahead of the year before. So when you can get through an API from a PMS the very, very raw data and not aggregate data, that's when, by adding context to it, you can have a much better view of where you're going with your business. But you really need to go down to that level, I would say. So that's the first way that we actually think about data. The second way that we think about data, we think that in the digital age, everything starts with the customer in the center. So the way that you are going to examine your data, and again, capturing at the lowest level possible, is you're going to look at the customer journey. And the PMS will give you a lot of data, specifically as from check-in and all the spend that the customer is doing at the property, and then how much he spent, what kind of personalization we can do for them, and every interaction that he goes through. So now that's quite a lot of data, and then you can map it across that customer journey. But then, because again, you have this data on the very granular level, you can enrich it with outside sources, which can be prior to staying in the hotel, for example, website searches or destination searches or data from your central reservation system. And then after the stay, it can be your reviews data, it can be benchmarking about how good your hotel performed, or it can be data that is sitting in your customer relationship management system. And building that kind of 360-degree level of that customer journey and having different data points across the journey to take decision is really what's going to bring a great value for that. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. Yeah, we can go through. So here's a practical example of some data points that we are getting from Stay in Touch, and how we enrich it with information that we have in Juyo. So obviously we get transaction levels, we get the rate that the customer has paid, we get extra spend, and then from our end, having all that, we apply all the acquisition costs that are mapped to that particular customer or channel or segment. We can look at data, for example, about campaigns, adding profile data, and then the sales and marketing spend that we have in a hotel to go down to the profit and understand what is this customer bringing me as a profit and therefore value. So that allows us, if we go to the next one, that allows us in terms of output to have a perfect view of what is our net revenue on a day-by-day granular basis. So through the API, we can get the data every time we want. We can just call that data. We bring it in our application. It's refreshed in a real-time fashion. So then we're able to say, okay, here's how good we are in the past in terms of net revenue. And here's actually also how we're going to do in the future. So that enables us actually to take decisions before they happen. So not only looking at the rear view mirror, but also taking decisions for the future in terms of our profitability and our net revenue down to the customer level. And obviously, the next thing that we can actually do, what Moti was saying, is, let's say, the hardcore revenue management part, and that is optimizing the rates in real time, managing your inventory, and working together with acquisition to see how much actually we are spending and where is the business landing, and at what price point should it be. And having that overall look about the customer, his journey, how much we paid to acquire him, and how we're going to price him is eventually what's going to make the big difference in terms of your numbers. We can go to the next one. Yeah. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is, apart from everything that is happening behind the scenes, the algorithms, all the clever things that we are going with the data, it's also about people. And it's at these two intersections where we actually marry data with smart people in the hotels. And I see this as marrying actually the art and the science of taking decisions. That's the next slide. And that is all where the magic comes. It comes when we are able to empower people to work together with the different systems that they have to take profitable decisions. And the way that you need to look at that is you need to think that you have different departments in the hotels. And what we're trying to do here is to eliminate all the different silos that you can have. So you can have on one end revenue management, you can have sales sitting in another place, you can actually have your marketing department, and then maybe you can have your front office or your general manager, which is looking at something else. And we can move to the next slide. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to think really, really hard. What is actually the data that these people need to take decisions that will impact their performance? Because the revenue manager usually wants very, very granular information. He wants to know how good is he doing in a particular day. He wants to know how is my future trending ahead, let's say on a weekly basis. A GM, though, just wants to know perhaps how well did we do in terms of our market performance, or he wants to know how much have we spent to actually acquire these customers, which also sales and marketing will actually look at more information about their funnel. And the way that you are going to design this, you need to design these dashboards need to appeal to the individual needs of every person in the organization. Because apart from the actionability part of really automating your decisions in terms of pricing, in terms of the inventory, what you really want to do is empower as many people as you want in the organization to take these decisions. And that's how you are successful in the digital age. So we've compiled a couple of questions or a checklist for you to go back home and to think about this. And one of them is, do I have a centralized place where I consolidate all that information that everybody can go into? Are the interfaces placed? Are my systems talking to each other in a sort of live fashion? Do I combine internal and external data sources? Am I thinking a little bit outside the box? Then is my forecast accessible to operational departments? You do want to have an alignment from your revenue management strategy down to how you run your operations. And having that forecast available and having one vision of the truth across your whole organization is today very, very important. Then, how much are we spending to acquire the customer? Are we measuring net revenue? This is something that I think all of us should be busy with today. And then, do we have this common place, as we said, to share all the KPIs, and do all the people understand what they have to do to actually achieve these KPIs, whether it's the total revenue, whether it's the net revenue, whether it's market share, or whatever that may be. So these are a couple of questions to go back to the hotels and to think about, are we doing these things to optimize our performance?
All right, thank you so much for that, Vasilis. And I do want to, go back to what you spoke on before, making those profit-driven decisions. What are some of the most important data points that have to be pushed from the PMS to the RMS for those important recommendations and decisions to be made?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you really want to have is you want to have data at the transaction level. Often you see in the industry that you get data that is consolidated data at market segment level or at channel level. This is just not good enough today. Today, what you really want to do is you want to go at the lowest level possible. And you want to have that dimensionality of the data at the transaction level, whether it's a rate code, whether it's a rate paid, whether it's a channel, a source, or a nationality. And that's where you can extract great value, and you're going to take proper decisions in terms of your pricing. Aggregated data will not give you a good starting point. And also being able to call this API and to get it in a real-time way is obviously very important, because then you can iterate and take these sort of changes and decisions much faster.
Awesome. All right. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to the audience. We do have a couple questions here. First one is for you, Madi. What would you say is the biggest benefit to a cloud and PMS solution as opposed to self-hosted?
Well, I think we touched about that a little bit throughout the webinar, and I think both Vasilis and I talked about the benefits. But if we need to really look at the one overall big benefit for someone who's going to try to go for a PMS in the cloud and a revenue management system in the cloud, is definitely the use of technology to reduce your cost and have operationally beneficial and efficient and smooth systems that talk to each other with you not having to do any efforts. So just from a technology perspective, having the two systems talk to each other, not needing any maintenance or attention from you as opposed to an on-premise or self-hosted, I think is a big advantage by itself. Of course, everything else we mentioned in the webinar is right underneath, but that's probably the biggest advantage.
Awesome. And this one's for you, Vasilis. Why is sharing performance data important outside of the revenue department team?
Right, that's a good question. It used to be in the past that the revenue manager was sort of the center of the universe, and he was the one to hold the keys to the performance, to everything that was happening in the hotel or across the organization. But today, there's many more people out there actually that need to be empowered with the decisions. And, you know, as we said, that is sales and marketing, that is digital, that is your hotel operations, that is perhaps people that are working in acquisition, etc. And all these people have a small stone to actually bring to the success. And that you want to eliminate these silos. You want them to all go to one place together, but you also want to empower them separately to work on their KPIs. So it's a mix of both actually that's going to drive a good performance.
All right, awesome. And we talked a little bit earlier about making that data actionable and some KPIs that you can use to track and measure, the performance. So what are some key KPIs that you want to throw out there, Vasilis?
So I think that today we should all be busy with net revenue. I think this is the single most important KPI that we should look at. We know how acquisition costs have grown in the industry in the last years. We know that today we spend up to 25, 30, sometimes 30% of our revenue to acquire that customer. I think this is extremely important to put on the map. We're not doing it enough, and we should definitely add it there alongside with all the rest of the traditional ones, whether it's your market share, your ADR, your total revenue, etc., etc. But net revenue, we should all think very hard about it today.
Awesome. And another question for you, Vasilis. Does Juyo allow an independent hotelier to 100% automate pricing if he doesn't know anything about revenue management and doesn't have resources to pay a revenue manager?
Absolutely. So we give the choice to the customer. And we say, if you want to have the last word on the pricing and you have a revenue manager in place that wants to work with a business system, that's absolutely okay. If you want to totally automate it, that is also possible, works both ways.
Awesome. All right. we are wrapping up the webinar now. I want to thank our audience for sticking with us the whole way through, and especially thank our presenters who gave us some great insight here, Vasilis and Madi. So to our audience, please send any additional questions or comments you have to info@stayintouch.com. We'll get back to you as soon as possible, and the webinar recording and presentation will be available within 24 hours in a follow-up email to all registrants. Thank you guys again. Have a good day, and see you next time.